I apologized for the behavior of my mother-in-law, who openly berated me in front of our relatives during my father-in-law's 60th birthday celebration. She not only called me unattractive but also incompetent, making me feel humiliated and ashamed. Where was my supportive husband, always so attentive? Was he taking care of our daughter? He was nowhere to be found. As soon as I arrived at my in-laws' house, feeling perfectly fine, my mother-in-law suddenly complained of severe back pain and became unable to move. She handed over all the party preparation work to me. Later, she continued to belittle me in front of the guests who had come to celebrate my father-in-law, turning what should have been a joyous occasion into a somber one. Then my father-in-law stood up and broke the tense silence with a single phrase that triggered a series of unimaginable events. "Is that all you have to say?" I'm Sarah, 35 years old. 6 years ago, I married my husband Michael, who is 3 years younger than me. We have a 5-year-old daughter. My mother-in-law seemed displeased with me since I was older than her son. Whenever I visited her house during holidays, she made sarcastic remarks in my husband's absence. I wish I had a younger, more vibrant daughter-in-law, not someone with age spots like you. Do I really look that old? I would ask. Yes, very. Don't you see your own face in the mirror every day? It hurt to be criticized about my appearance, but I thought it best not to make a big deal out of it since we only met a few times a year. However, this seemed to irritate her more, leading to harsher words. You're quite thick-skinned for an old woman. You don't get upset no matter what I say. I find it annoying that you don't show a shred of modesty. What could I say to my mother-in-law, who only spoke words that left me at a loss? In front of my husband, she hid her true nature and spoke kindly to me. He seemed unaware of her mistreatment, and if I vented my frustrations, I would likely be blamed, so I held back. Visiting her house felt burdensome, but this was a significant celebration for my kind father-in-law's 60th birthday. Many relatives were gathering for a grand event, so I decided to attend. My father-in-law is a quiet man who subtly shows kindness. When I'm feeling down due to my mother-in-law's harsh words, he gently approaches me and says, "Sarah, if you're having a hard time, feel free to tell me. If it's all right, I'd like to be there for you." I wondered if he knew about my harassment, but to protect me from further mistreatment, he refrained from openly supporting me. To celebrate my warm-hearted father-in-law, our family left early in the morning and drove 3 hours to their house. I was feeling under the weather with a low-grade fever and lingering fatigue, so Michael did all the driving. Upon arrival, my mother-in-law greeted us cheerfully. Well, look who's here. It's been a while, Michael. You should visit more often. Oh dear, you look tired. I've been driving non-stop, so it can't be helped, Michael replied. I see you've worked hard. I'll get the bed ready. Why don't you go rest in the back room? I think I'll take you up on that. Sarah, you should rest too. You've been taking care of the kid in the car, and you don't seem well. Oh dear, Michael, didn't you know? I called Sarah yesterday, and we plan to go shopping together for the celebration. You go and rest, Sarah. Once you put the luggage down, we'll head out. No such communication had occurred. Exhausted from looking after our energetic 5-year-old daughter, I wanted to rest too. Since Sarah's not feeling well, let her rest. You can do the shopping, Michael suggested. But it's your father's big celebration. I want to choose the best ingredients with Sarah. Sarah, you'll keep your promise, right? She left me no room to refuse, forcefully pulling me back into the car. She glared at me and snapped, "I don't think you need time to rest." Then she smiled brightly and said loudly, "Thank you for driving. I'm so happy." Knowing that opposing her would ruin the day, I reluctantly got into the driver's seat. I'm fine, Michael. You rest. I'll go shopping with her. As I tried to hand over our daughter to Michael, my mother-in-law took her and seated her in the child's seat. Looking after the child is a mother's duty. Well, Michael, we're off. Once in the passenger seat, she began berating me. You can't even look after your child properly. Stop using Michael for your convenience. You're just an incompetent daughter-in-law who's only aged. Her sweet facade remained as she waved goodbye to Michael, who remained oblivious. I drove my husband's unfamiliar car toward a large supermarket. Of course, my mother-in-law couldn't stay quiet during the drive. She began lecturing me right away. I'll make you regret lazing around while making my son drive. Mother-in-law, please don't say such scary things. I've been feeling feverish and fatigued since this morning. Your poor health is due to your bad management. Also, your crow's feet have increased and the spots on your cheeks have darkened. I can't even bear to look at you. Your skin has lost its elasticity. I had no energy to respond to her harsh words and barely managed to nod along until we arrived at the supermarket. I wondered how other daughters-in-law managed to endure such treatment from their mothers-in-law. My high-spirited mother-in-law jumped out of the car without a word of thanks and swiftly handed me 2 shopping carts. "You're so slow. Get a move on." When I tried to avoid the crowds, she swiftly moved forward, filling the shopping basket with luxury foods like USDA prime beef, crab, salmon roe, and melons. Then she started adding items that were clearly not needed for the day. "Mother-in-law, do we need these urgently?" I asked. "We're bulk buying so we don't have to come to the supermarket again and again. You should know that without being told," she replied. Feeling helpless, I let her do as she pleased. By the time we finished shopping, the 2 carts were piled high. "We're going to check out. Hurry up. Stop dawdling." Despite her rush, when it came time to pay at the counter, my mother-in-law showed no intention of taking out her wallet. "Mother-in-law, the payment," I began, but with her arms folded, she didn't move an inch. "You should pay for everything," she said coldly. "Excuse me," I stammered. "As a wife, it's your duty to entertain your husband's father. Don't be stingy and just pay." I ended up having to pay a total of $300 at the cash register to avoid making a scene. Not having any cash on me, I paid with my credit card. As a part-time worker trying to raise a child, this was a significant blow to my finances. To make matters worse, I had brought $300 as a birthday gift for my father-in-law's 60th birthday, but I couldn't use that now. This expense meant I would have to cut back even more on our living costs in the future, and the burden that was already heavy became even heavier. I wondered how I should tell this to Michael. If I reported it, my mother-in-law might cause a fuss. During the car ride home, she kept hurling insults at me. It was almost impressive how many different ways she could insult me. By the time we arrived home, my husband was still asleep, probably due to exhaustion. Upon seeing this, my mother-in-law smiled slightly and began to take advantage of me. "After you put away the groceries, go weed the garden right away. Please, can I rest a bit?" I pleaded. "You have no right to defy your mother-in-law. This is the consequence of making Michael drive alone." "So this is what you want," I murmured. "If you have time to move your mouth, just go and move your hands. Hurry up. We're short on time." After weeding, cleaned the bathroom and the toilet. Despite the unfairness of the situation, I had no choice but to endure it for the day. I weeded the garden and then cleaned the grimy, yellow-stained bathroom and toilet. I thought that once the 60th birthday celebration was over, I wouldn't have to see my mother-in-law for a while. My husband woke up just as I had finished cleaning and looked surprised to see me. "Sarah, are you okay? If you're not feeling well, don't overwork yourself. Take a break now." "Thank you. I'll take you up on that offer." As I was about to lie down, my mother-in-law suddenly let out a loud yell, clutching her back. Although she had been lively just moments before, she started complaining about sudden back pain. My mother-in-law, who always presented a gentle demeanor in front of my husband, suddenly let out a weak voice. "This is troublesome. My back hurts so much I can't do anything. My chronic back pain has flared up again. I won't be able to cook before the relatives gather. Sarah, you're my only hope." "But, oh, what should I do?" As much as her sorrowful demeanor seemed staged, if her chronic back pain was genuine, it would indeed be impossible for her to stand in the kitchen. Reluctantly, I pushed my worried body, asked my husband to look after our daughter, and started cooking. "Sarah, are you sure you're okay?" Michael asked. "I'm fine. I always cook, remember?" I put on a brave front for my husband, but my body was already fatigued. Yet it was an important day for my father-in-law, and I felt that I couldn't afford to take a break. My head was spinning, and somehow the smell of food was making me sick, but I had to keep going for my father-in-law. After I managed to finish cooking, my father-in-law came into the kitchen to check on me. "You've worked hard. Thank you for preparing all this food." "Not at all. It's for you. Please enjoy it later." After that, the relatives started gathering one after another, everyone wishing my father-in-law well, creating a lively atmosphere. As we finished the toast and were about to start eating, my mother-in-law started saying something shocking. "I'm sorry, everyone, but due to my chronic back pain flaring up on this important birthday celebration, the food was all cooked by my daughter-in-law. I apologize for the unappetizing food made by my unattractive daughter-in-law." Both my father-in-law and husband froze at my mother-in-law's sudden outburst. My daughter-in-law is not only unattractive, but she's also clumsy. A total failure. It's truly pitiful. Ouch. My mother-in-law exaggeratedly rubbed her back, continuing to disparage me. She's so clumsy that without my support, she can't do anything. I wonder if she can even take care of her own child. I'm so worried about whether Michael can manage with such a woman as his wife. What was supposed to be a festive atmosphere quickly turned gloomy, resembling more of a wake than a celebration. My usually supportive husband, who was supposed to be looking after our daughter, was nowhere to be found. At that moment, my father-in-law, who had been sitting quietly, suddenly stood up. Is that all you wanted to say? Ha! Seems like it. Maybe we should kick out the useless one then. Following his words, my husband entered the room holding our daughter in a suitcase, his face unusually stern. Dad, as you said, I've packed her stuff. My mother-in-law smiled at the sight, seemingly pleased. Sarah, looks like you're getting kicked out. But to her surprise, my husband handed the suitcase to her. What? My father-in-law's booming voice added the final blow. Take that and get out of this house right away. Although she seemed unable to comprehend what was happening, my mother-in-law quickly understood the situation. Why should I be the one kicked out? It's Sarah who's useless. The bathroom is always covered in mold, the toilet left dirty, and you call Sarah useless when you barely cook anything, not to mention how harshly you've been treating her. I've had enough. It's the mother-in-law's duty to discipline the daughter-in-law. I was only pointing out her shortcomings. Discipline? What era do you think we're living in? Realizing that her angry father-in-law wouldn't take her side, my mother-in-law turned to her usual theatrics and began crying to my husband. Michael, don't misunderstand. We might need to take care of your father someday, right? So I was teaching Sarah how to be a good wife. As tough as that was. Take care of him. That's a laugh. I won't be fooled by you anymore. You've just been bullying Sarah. Even today, despite feeling unwell, she came along to celebrate Dad's 60th birthday. Sarah volunteered to celebrate, didn't she? Don't lie, you also made her pay for the groceries, didn't you? I found the receipt from today in her bag when she was trying to take out candies for our daughter. It shows that Sarah paid with her credit card. I just asked her to pay because I didn't have any cash on hand. I was planning to pay her back honestly. Really? If I hadn't noticed, you would have just kept quiet. I've turned a blind eye to the common mother-in-law and daughter-in-law issues, but you're going too far. I'm fed up with living with a spiteful old woman. Seeing my husband and father-in-law turn away from her, my mother-in-law began to blame me with all her usual theatrics, tears streaming down her face. No, I haven't said anything, but it's a fact that you've been bullying me, isn't it? For the sake of my father-in-law and my husband, who had gone to great lengths for me, I gathered the courage and spoke the truth for the first time. I would no longer let my mother-in-law have her way. That's right, we heard about it from Mia. We also know about the nasty comments you made about Sarah at the supermarket and in the car. Afterwards, you made Sarah do all the weeding and cleaning the bathroom and the toilet. Yeah, Grandma was mean to Mommy. She made her clean a lot of places. You can't trust what a child says. Maya doesn't lie. Let's check the dash cam footage. That should clear everything up. Michael, could you do that? Good idea, Sarah. I'll do that right away. What? What is that? Ignoring his mother's question, Michael went to the car parked outside, started the engine, and began playing the dash cam footage. The latest device, which could also record the inside of the car, was installed, so even facial expressions were clear. Ah, it's showing she was saying these things. I'm shocked. Everyone come over here and watch this. Relatives who had followed to see what was happening all checked the footage. Upon doing so, they began to comment. This is terrible indeed. Wow, this is the worst. Mother-in-law, who had stayed in the house insisting she wasn't at fault, began to panic as the atmosphere grew tense and ran barefoot toward the car. Everyone was taken aback by her swift movements despite her supposed back pain. So the back pain was just an act then. I'm all better now, she said, casually responding to my words. She tried to awkwardly seat herself in the driver's seat to turn off the dash cam. But she was firmly held by my father-in-law, making it impossible for her to move. Stop this right now. Don't look, she screamed, but no amount of pleading could help her. With all her misdeeds exposed, my mother-in-law, stunned and speechless, sank down helplessly. That's when my father-in-law casually handed her a single piece of paper. I filled in my part, You just need to write your part and submit it. What? Isn't this a divorce form? I had it prepared just in case. I never thought I'd have to use it. Don't ever cross my doorstep again. Wait a minute. I promise to stop. I promise. Sarah, please forgive me. The sight of my mother-in-law begging for forgiveness with tears in her eyes was truly pitiful, but this too was likely an act. I firmly pushed my mother-in-law away. You let the cat out of the bag about bullying your daughter-in-law. In the end, I will never forgive you. You might want to leave before the neighbors gather around. Oh no, this is terrible. The commotion attracted the attention of neighbors who watched from a distance. Perhaps not wanting to make a scene, she promptly took the divorce form and suitcase, and her supposed back pain was nowhere to be found. She rushed out of the garden. The villain had been dealt with, but our home filled with guilt. I'm sorry for all this during your 60th birthday celebration, Dad. When I earnestly apologized, he responded, Sarah, you did nothing wrong. I'm sorry for all the trouble we've caused. Let's start over. My father-in-law smiled, and the relatives also watched with kind expressions. Later, they praised the dishes I had prepared and ate heartily. At that moment, all the fatigue seemed to fly away. Thus, we celebrated my father-in-law's 60th birthday in a grand manner. My mother-in-law, who was initially reluctant to agree to the divorce, eventually agreed, and they divorced amicably. It was also revealed that she had been misappropriating funds from my father-in-law's account, and she was ordered to repay $10,000 that she had spent recklessly. Unable to find work due to her lack of experience, she now works as a janitor in an office building late at night. With barely any money left, she lives in a rundown apartment that's seen better days. On the other hand, I found out that I was pregnant with my second child. It seemed that the feeling of discomfort I had earlier was due to my pregnancy. 5 months have passed since then, and my husband Michael has been very caring. The ultrasound revealed that we're expecting a boy. Both Michael and my father-in-law are looking forward to his arrival, already excited. My father-in-law sent over blue baby clothes. My adorable daughter is overjoyed at the thought of having the younger brother and practices taking care of a baby with her dolls every day. Watching her gives me immense happiness.